Welcome to Under Pressure, the podcast about becoming better men when it counts. I'm Cody Laughlin.
And I'm Brian Alfaro. Each week, we have honest conversations about building businesses, leading families, carrying responsibility, and the pressure that comes with trying to do all of it well. If that sounds like your world, you're in the right place.
No hype, no pretending we've got it all figured out, just real stories, real struggles, and what we're learning along the way. Let's get into it.
Before we get started, if today's topic resonates with you, you'll probably enjoy The Forge. It's our free weekly newsletter where we share lessons, stories, and practical ideas around business, family, responsibility, and becoming better men. You can join at forgingbettermen.com. Now let's get into it. I want to welcome Josh to the show. We have a great guest here today. Josh, you and I met in 2019, I think. I was looking at multifamily mentorship, signed up. I can't remember if I signed up for something or maybe we met at a networking thing online. And
No, Bigger Pockets Facebook thread.
Okay, Bigger Pockets Facebook thread. He remembers better than I do. Yeah, you got great memory. And we met, and here we are in 2026, trying to do big things together. So I'm excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Brian. Very grateful you're here. Yeah, and it ultimately shows the power of like planting a seed, watering it, nurturing it, and really
relationship. It's all about relationships. In business, we've learned that relationships are really everything. So I appreciate the opportunity to have you on the show. And for our guests who don't know who you are and don't know who Josh Roosen is and what you've done, give us a little color on your background and how you got started in life. And also want to transition, of course, talking about how you got into sales and the education space, and we can go from there. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. So currently 36 years old, bought my first property in real estate in 2015. Now, 11 years later in 2026, we own 17 properties, 728 units. 14 of the 17 are their own money, so no investors. But I didn't always start out that way, right? So let's talk about kind of how that came. So I grew up very middle class. I didn't grow up without, but I definitely wanted more in life. And so went to college wanting to be a physician. And in my undergrad, I worked for an orthopedic surgeon. I would say this guy would probably be one of my first mentors in life. Very successful individual. I mean, he had like 12 to 15 cars, a nice lake house in one of the best lakes in Michigan.
That's a lot of cars.
I love cars. It was crazy. Cool thing was he would let me drive some of them. So I nannied for this guy, believe it or not.
Okay.
And like, there were times where I was driving a Mercedes SL 55 with the V12 bi-turbo in it.
And you're like a kid, basically.
Yeah, hardtop convertible. And I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling on top of the world, driving things out of my league. And so I'm all excited, right? And working for this guy and really trying to build like value to him in that relationship. And well, fast forward a couple of years between my senior and super senior year, it took me a couple of years to get out of college. He comes home one day and he's like, Josh, don't do it. I wouldn't let my kids do it. You're crazy. And I'm like, what? And so at the time, I had just dropped, I don't know if it was $1,100 or $1,300 on a CAPRS, right? Medical college admissions test. And I think I was making like maybe 10 an hour working for him. And so in college, I was, using that money to live on and saving up to take this test. And not to mention, I was already 6 figures in debt from undergrad, right?
Yep.
So I'm sitting here like, oh man, like he's dropping a bomb on me. And so I'm like, I'm so confused. You're doing well. Like, tell me more. And he's like, look, in the 90s, I used to make 7 figures a year. And now I'm lucky to make half that. Well, my parents have never made 6 figures growing up, right? So I was like, okay, dude, like good problem to have. You're complaining about making $500,000. And this is, I don't know, 2011, 2012.
That's a lot.
That's what I'm saying. And so I'm like, this is crazy, right? Like you're delusional. And he's like, no, you don't get it. He was like, how much debt do you have from undergrad? And I told him 6 figures. And then he goes, you're going to go to medical school, take out an additional couple 6 figers. You're going to have residency and then fellowship. You're going to accrue interest throughout that whole time. You're going to graduate, be in your early 30s, be $500,000 in debt. And he's like, I believe by that time, physician reimbursements will be between $100,000 to $200,000 a year. He's like, you're going to live in a 1-bedroom apartment for a decade just to get out from under that debt. And so I picture and imagine myself at 40 years old, just digging out of that hole. And I'm like, I can't do this, right? Like my life flashed before my eyes. And so then I look around and I'm like, look, I have a biology degree. Like, what do I do with that, right? Because that's not going to, give me a high paying job either. And so he's like, go into business. I make more money in business than I do being a doctor. And what this guy had done and why he was so successful is he's an orthopedic surgeon. He would buy buildings and then he would do triple net leases to companies in there. So like orthotics for the durable medical equipment. He would rent out also for the therapy equipment as well. And then he would have these different clinics and he would hire PAs to work under him and he would be the managing physician of it. On top of that, he owned part of a joint implant company. MRI center. Like he just had all these investments, right? So I saw the doctor income and thought that was it.
Yep.
But really, it was the business owner income. And so I kind of look around, assess what I could do. And I knew someone who was in home healthcare and he had done well. It seemed like there was, the silver tsunami was coming up and it was an industry with low barrier to entry. And so what I did was I moved home and I started trying to build a home healthcare company. So I'd go to Panera every day. It was my office at our Starbucks. I couldn't
You were a
afford
VIP
breakfast.
Panera member.
Yeah. Panera was awesome. The booths there are great. You could get a cup and have unlimited coffee,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
like cheap. I feel like the food was still good back then. It was
Yeah,
like Panera in its prime.
Right.
And so I would just post up there, right? And it wasn't at my parents' house. I was like getting away. And 6
Probably
months
told your parents, I'm going to work. Yeah,
exactly. Well, it's funny. Why I got that theory from, I had an uncle that he said if you treated school like a job and just went to the campus from like 9 to 5, you would do really well, right?
Sure.
Not come home and slack off and stuff like that. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do the same thing here.
Yep.
There's no distractions. I can't go take a nap or, end up clipping my toenails or something weird.
Washing dishes, making dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I had no money, so it's not like I was snacking all
That's
day. So I'm there, but 6 months in, I have a website, brochure, business card, LLC. And I'm like, man, I'm kicking butt. I'm going to take over the world. Well, my parents, who are very traditional mindset, were like, Josh, you got to get a job. Like this entrepreneurship stuff's a pipe dream. You either got to get a job or get out. And I'm like, my heart just shattered. Right. And it was almost like, all right, listen, this orthopedic surgeon that I work for is like telling me this is the route to go. And he has the results I want. Yeah, you guys who are, we lived an okay life, but by no means 12 to 15 cars and balling out like that are like, look, you got to get a job. And so it's like, man, I'm taking advice from someone who doesn't have the results I want, but at the same time, I'm living at their house. And so I had to do something.
Yep. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, as they say. Yeah.
Quite literally, yeah. And on top of that, I deferred my student loans for 6 months. So they were about to kick in. I think I said it, but I had an '04 Impala SS with 250,000 miles on it and less than $1,000 in my name. So not much where to go, right?
Right.
So I come home one day and my parents had this ad in the paper. That's how old we are, right? Papers. And it was hiring for a lawn care consultant for a local lawn care company that was like a mile from their house. And I read the ad and it says like $40K a year. And that's $20 an hour, right? If you make that. So it's more than I ever made before.
Right.
So to appease them, I go apply. And while I'm applying, I find out it's a base of like $10 an hour and the rest is commission. So I'm like, gosh, dang it. Probably the best case guy makes $40K a year, right? And so I end up getting accepted. And in there, I end up having to sell lawn care, right? Weed control, fertilization, grubs, moles, all that stuff.
So were you knocking on doors or how are you selling lawn care?
No, it was telemarketing.
Okay. So you're just dialing on the phone all day. Yep.
This is a crazy experience too, because during the summer and stuff, we were selling a lot of active customers and then taking inbound calls of people that wanted to sell lawn care, right? And so you would sell active customers more treatments or additional treatments if their lawn needed.
Right.
And then during the winter, though, it was really wild. So Michigan in the winter, obviously there's snow on the ground. And so what we would do is we would literally have a dialer that would like take different cities and go block by block, cold calling these people to try to sell them lawn care. And I'd never done telemarketing or cold calling before. And so that really thickened my skin because no one likes getting cold call, right?
Sure.
And so you had to really learn how to sell through that. And also the lawn care we sold, we were higher priced than the nationwide companies like True Green or Scott's. And so what I didn't realize was I thought it was a disadvantage because I couldn't compete on price, but I had to sell value there. And that really, I'm grateful looking back because the cold calling in the winter and having a more expensive product in the market really had me hone my sales skills to be able to compete. And I'm also grateful it's commission based because it wasn't, salary, you can punch a clock and maybe if you do better than someone, you might get a raise or things like that.
Right.
But generally you're going to earn the same as them. Right. But commission, like you eat what you kill. And so with that, what I learned is the harder I worked, the more money I made.
Right.
So I'm at the weed control and fertilization company. And again, in 9 months, I done very well. Well, I was looking around me again, trying to do more. And I had an aunt that had done probably the most successful in our family, right? And she's in real estate as an agent, but also did as an investor. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to buy my first rental property. Okay. And so I took the money I had and I did an FHA loan on a house for $102,743.
Oh, you remember it?
Yeah. I remember the exact price. This was killer. And so I moved into it for a little bit because I didn't want to break the law, right? I had to show intent to move in there. And then at the same time, while I'm doing that, I'm also looking for other jobs, right? So I'm going to move out when I find a new job. And then that ended up being my first rental. So I moved a buddy from high school into it, charged him $1,200 a month. My expenses, taxes, mortgage, insurance were $707 a month.
Okay.
So I bought this house with, I don't know, $5,000 down, right? So my 3.5% plus a little bit of closing costs and all that. And so I was cash flow positive year one, right? Like 100% cash on cash year one, which was crazy. So I'm like mind blown, right?
That was your first taste. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hooked. And then on top of that, I'm looking for I'm like, all right, I got some skills here with sales and I like this. And I was looking around at my coworkers at the lawn care company. And a lot of them they were just sort of not the people that were going anywhere, right? They're on the way home, they would stop and hit the liquor store. They were kind of career comfortable and just, I mean, I don't want to use the word degenerates, but they just weren't the cream of the crop of people of self-development, right? And so I'm looking around, I'm like, man, I don't fit in here, right? These people aren't going to the gym and trying to do better for themselves. They're just like grumpy about life, right?
Yeah.
Like playing victim rather than taking a hold of their situation.
Sure. Well, I want to stop real quick because there's a lot to unpack there before we talk about, your next transition. The first thing that really stuck out to me was that first slap in life. When you're young and you haven't experienced a lot of failure and you have this plan, a lot of kids, they go in high school and they teach you this in high school. Like, what do you, they start planting that seed. What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And you start having this vision and this mindset of, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be an engineer, or whatever it is that you're going to do. That moment where you get slapped in the face in life and realize that this isn't what I thought it was going to be. That had to be something that I'm guessing that was your first time feeling something like that. And the emotions that you feel when that happened had to be your first time, right? It had to be very impactful, I would imagine, for you. So what like that moment when that happened, did it take you a while to kind of like, okay, think about that? Or did you just like immediately pivot? Because I know you're an entrepreneur, and Anthony the other day when I was talking to him was saying, entrepreneurs move fast and break things.
Yeah.
Were you immediately pivoting, going, okay, I know that's not for me? Or did it really kind of emotionally impact you to the point where you had to like sit down and think about, okay, what's next?
Well, okay, so there was a moment where I had to assess the situation, and I started looking at, well, if I'm not going to go to med school, right, what can I do with this biology degree? And it went from making 100 to 200,000 a year to like some biologists make 60, 55, 70. So I'm like, this is from like bad to worse, right? Like 1 to 200 is an upgrade being a physician doing that. And now that guy had a negative outlook on where physicians were going because they're now not self-employed, and a lot of them are employed by the hospitals. And some of that's come true, right? Physician reimbursements going down. But I was just so confused of like, man, I have all this debt. I put my life energy behind it. Like, what do I do, right? And there was no clear path at that time to how do I do this? But again, if I really know like the seed that was planted in my head that allowed me to pivot, that aunt that got me into real estate in 8th grade gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And so there were little things of like, when we got that book, that winter, I went and literally knocked doors with a buddy of mine and went to go shovel snow and things like that. Okay. Right. So we had some foray into like attempted entrepreneurship. Now it wasn't anything big, but it was like, we're going to go make money. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so after that, I realized like, all right, what is business? What could I do? And I actually worked out at this athletic club. It's called Genesis. So it's like a Lifetime Fitness. And I had known some people in there that were in the home healthcare space that had done well. And so it seemed like a business that didn't have a lot of startup capital. So I didn't have to go buy a physical location. I didn't need a ton of employees. And it seemed like something that was doable, right? But again, I didn't know as I was trying to do this home healthcare company, the difference between activity and accomplishment. So when I went through there and made that pivot, I think I had a lot of ignorance and like lessons that I had to learn, that it was just, all right, things are going to be easy. I'm going to be rich. And it didn't work that way. Right?
I think that also the key point too, is that's very interesting, is a lot of people think that in order to get into business, you have to have like a business background or have a business degree. You didn't have either. Now you had some entrepreneurial attempts here and there. You were somebody who always, I would say, took action first and kind of learned along the way. Like you didn't spend 2 years reading business books, and YouTube wasn't around back then, I don't think, but you weren't, kind of educating yourself before you said, okay, now I can go start a business because I have the education. I think that point of taking action and learning while you're doing is more valuable than, not that mentorship and education, those are all super valuable, but the idea of taking action first and then figuring out as you go. Now don't, put all your last $100,000 in your bank account in a business, but starting something, keeping your costs really low, figuring out as you go, learning business, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, for sure. And in that point, there's a lot that you're right on. It's like done is better than perfect.
Yep.
And also it's a spectrum, right? Too little education, too much action can be dangerous, right? And detrimental. But at the same time, too much education, like and no implementation, it doesn't manifest any results.
Right.
And so there is a spectrum there where you massive action will compensate for being not educated well enough. And I did try to learn online. I found this site that would teach you how to do a home healthcare business, and they had some like free teaser course, and I didn't have the money for their full course, right? But I was going through that, trying to implement it, and then just, I mean, there was no Chat GPT, it was Google, right? Trying
Yeah.
to figure out the rest. So I was like, you know what, it can't be this hard. I can figure it out. But ultimately, I didn't generate any revenue, right? That was the hard part for me. It was it was all this work and time invested, but ultimately I had nothing to show for it in the end. So.
Right. So you start this home healthcare company. It doesn't necessarily work as you thought, and then you get your first taste of real estate. You buy a single family house. You start getting that cash flow, 100% cash flow year. You don't find those anymore. Those are hard to find.
Yeah.
So you get your taste. What's next on your journey? Where do you go from there? Because where you're at now and there, that you're still very far apart.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, I had at that point some sales skills, and I was like, wow, this is a valuable skill set. And then I had some real estate, right? So I'm like, how do I combine the two? So I'm sitting there looking for a sales job in real estate, and I find this company, Fortune Builders, and it's like this aggressive comp plan they're showing, right? Like 6 figures your first year with the ability to scale up to $250,000 in like 2 to 3 years. And I'm like, man, like I hit the gold mine, right?
It's that doctor money you were looking for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and on top of that, it's in San Diego, California. And so when in vacations I had gone on in my life, I really like San Diego as a city. So I'm like, a city I love, the ability to make money. And so I go through this application process with them, and it was a pretty in-depth application process. And at one point, they even had me do a book report on the book Goals by Brian Tracy. Like you had to read the book, do a book report. And then they had me fly out, and I was like, man, I didn't have a lot of money. So to spend the flight and get a hotel and go out there and interview. And even after that interview, they didn't let me know I had the job until after I got back. So I'm sitting there, and I actually go check it out. And it was like, they had a sales floor that was so crazy there. So I applied for an in-house sales position, right? So on the phone, and it felt like boiler room in there, right? And there were people making money. You go in the parking lot and there's Range Rovers. And I'm like, man, I got to be here, right?
Yep.
Like there's something good going on. And so fortunately I get the job. And honestly, what I think got me the job, which is really crazy looking back, I remember going on YouTube and looking up how to crush an interview, right? Because I was like, I really want this, right? Like, I'm going to make sure I get this. And I didn't know this, but I took a question from one of the YouTube videos I watched, and it was at the end of the interview. It was like, hey, is there any reason you wouldn't hire me? And I just paused, and I didn't realize, well, I had some sales skills, but it was a lot of features and benefits I sold back then, right? Not building value and stuff like that. Cause it was, lawn care is a much different sale than selling a, $30,000 to $50,000 mentorship program I did at Fortune Builders. And so when I asked that question in the sales interview and showed my hustle of like cold calling in the winter, right? And we had a dialer and stuff like that. So I wasn't putting the numbers in. I think that's what got me a job that I was literally punching above my weight, right? And so I was so grateful that I got that. And I'm like, man, life's about to change. And then even what's crazier, my parents, they're like, this is a scam. This doesn't exist. Don't do it. Right. Like all along the way, telling me I'm crazy. We're not rich. We can't be rich. So that was a pretty life-changing moment when those doors started opening up.
So you get into Fortune Builders, and you caught a little bit of luck, but also a little bit of preparation. And I think there's an important lesson there that you were preparing for something that you didn't know, and you didn't know when it was going to show up. A lot of times I think success in life and success in entrepreneurship or success in business in general is not about always the end result or the shiny object or the thing you're kind of hoping, the job you might hope you get, the investment you hope you might find, the business you hope you might sell or start. It's about preparing along the way. And that lawn care job, the failed home care, healthcare business that you started, those things all prepared you for that interview and for the opportunity at Fortune Builders. So I think that lesson, and anytime you're doing anything, whether it ends up working out or not, the skills and the mindset and the preparation that you get are preparing you for the next chapter in your life, but you may not realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even have that mindset back then, right? I just took that job so my parents wouldn't kick me out. And so, but it ended up being a great learning lesson, all throughout the way.
Right. So you take that job, you're there, and Fortune Builders is an education company. So now you are the owner, founder of Multifamily Wealth Nation, which is a multifamily focused mentorship and education program. This is where it all starts. This is where you start learning the education space, the mentorship space, sales, all these different things. Walk us through what were your big takeaways working from Fortune Builders that led you into the education space?
Okay, so I get there and they're like, hey, school doesn't teach you how to go out and build a business. They teach you how to get a job. And they're like, that model's broken. They basically set the stage of, look, these people are driving towards a bridge where the bridge is out. Like, we need to save them. And they basically showed that the traditional model of, a pension is no longer there. Now it's a 401k. And you need a ton of money in a 401k 401k to survive. Like that's pre-tax money. When you're retired, every day is a Saturday and you're more likely to get sick. And so you just need all of those funds to take care of yourself. And then on top of that, inflation's eroding those dollars all the time. We have no control of that. And so they're like, that way is broken. And what we do is help people with the systems, tools, and knowledge and guidance to build their own business and take control of their financial freedom. And so I was like geeked up. I'm like, wow, I get to help people and
I get to make money.
People. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I get there and the sale was way different than lawn care. Like I'm sitting here thinking I'm just going to crush all these sales, make all this money. And it was a totally different sale where you're going to like build value and really sell the destination, not the journey. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve for me there, and if I'm being honest. And I'm really grateful that my boss believed in me and didn't kind of cut me loose before I kind of mastered that sale. But once I was there, the thing that really inspired me, I remember one of my first weeks, my coworker in a cubicle over me, he made like $10,000 in a week. And I just couldn't fathom that number. I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, pinch me, is this real? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm in there working, grinding it out. And then really after a number of years there, what I realized was I was doing well, making, I don't know, let's call it $250,000 a year. And I was probably working 65 hours a week. And I got to a point where upper management was already set. Also, San Diego is not a cheap place to live by far.
$250,000 doesn't stretch very far in California.
Yeah. And my goal at the time was like, I could just make six figures. My parents had never made that. I'm like, I made it in life at six figures. And then you hit that and you're like, dang, this isn't what I thought it was. And so in there, like I couldn't trade any more time for money. I was working, let's call it 65 hours a week again. And then, like I said, upper management was already set. So I had done really well. And it was really a transformation in there. So like they just embellished or like embraced self-development so much that it was like a transformational being there. But at the same time, I was like, all right, kind of what's next? Like I got to figure out my next role in life. And so what I did is I had a buddy, Dylan Marmon, we both know, paid $7,500 for Grant Cardone one-on-one. This is late 2017. And at the time we were looking around and like, hey, we should start our own sales training business. Like we're really good at what we do here. And back then Grant wasn't known for Cardone Capital. He invested in apartments, but nobody really knew that he did that. He was a sales guy all the way through. So fly from San Diego to Miami, Dylan meets with Grant and when he sits down with him, he says, hey son, if I was you and I could do it all over again, I'd skip sales training, go straight into apartment investing. And if I did that, I'd be a billionaire instead of a millionaire. Only question is how many times over. And so, as you know, Grant Cardone, very bold dude, but like obviously he had the results. And at that point, he wasn't a billionaire yet, but it's supposedly he's he's gone on to be a billionaire now. And so, very bold statement. But obviously, like you listen when someone like that speaks. So flies back, we get lunch with Than, and Than independently says he wished he would have skipped residential and went straight to commercial real estate. And so he didn't specifically say multifamily, but we had two people that we knew had 9-figure net worth saying that this is the way to go. So at that point, we got a podcast, YouTube University, start learning, reading everything we can. We took a couple courses and we're diving all in. And so Dylan, my buddy, was like these guys, Jake and Gino that we had met, they had an education company, but they really didn't get it off the ground. It was kind of just started and existed. And so he goes, hey guys, look, I'm in a real estate education company. I will teach you how to build this business and work for you if you teach me how to buy apartments. And they're like, get out of here, kid. We're not looking to hire anyone. And so what he does, he quits Fortune Builders. He moves to Atlanta to start building his multifamily investing business. And he's going to bring deals and source them to Vinny Chopra, right? He's got like a mentor he's going to bring them to. And so a couple months later, Jake and Gino call back and they're like, Dylan, we want to take someone on. Like, are you still available? And he goes, I'm not available, but I know someone who'd be a good fit. Okay. So he introduces me to them. And as that company was just starting out, they didn't have a lot of revenue to match what I was making or come anywhere close. Right? So they're like, hey, we can give you a $50,000 salary. And then part of the income as the company grows. And so I have this path I need to look at where I'm like, man, I'm doing really well here. Like I'm making good money. But as I said, like taxes were high in California. So is the cost of living. And my upward mobility was very limited at that point, right? So to be in my mid-20s and being like, man, this is kind of it, was a scary path.
Sure.
So I consulted a few mentors of mine, one of them being my aunt who helped me get my first deal. And we decided that the taking a few steps backwards financially, a pay cut to go work for Jake and Gino with the potential upside and learning commercial real estate was the way to go. So what's really crazy looking back is I had a couple phone calls with these guys, not even a Zoom interview, never met them in person. I quit a multiple six-figure job, took a multiple six-figure haircut, and moved across country to build this business with them.
So you learned at Fortune Builders, at Jake and Gino, and what you do now, the power of mentorship. And you have probably seen, I don't know the exact number, hundreds of students, maybe more, go and be successful for mentorship. So now that you run a mentorship education company and you've went along this path, what's your message to people who are maybe skeptical about mentorship or have hesitation when it comes to mentorship?
Yeah, so let's start with the philosophy of mentorship, and then let's go how to vet a good mentor versus one I wouldn't work with. So my thought process was, if I could find people that had the results that I wanted and I could think and act like them, then the results would follow. And if I could add value to them, be the hardest worker, show up with the best attitude. That was literally my thesis. And it played out. Because again, with the traditional model is what's forced on everybody's throat. Go to school, get a job, save up. And it's really hard to save your way to wealth. Like my parents lived very frugally and they had nowhere near what they needed for retirement. Like their retirement was either me or the Walmart greeter. And that's a tough spot to be in, especially when you're trying to, save a couple dollars by making coffee at home, not eating out. Like the easier ways to make more money. And clearly entrepreneurship, look at the wealthiest people in the world. They're all entrepreneurs, not employees. And so the next thing is like, all right, that's what we got to do is find someone who has the results that you want and then add value to them and figure out what they did. And so that way you can do what they did that created success and also even avoid the pitfalls that they made that were slow down their journey. Literally compress time, reduce risk, and increase your upside. So that's what mentorship is in my mind. And there's knowledge there, systems, tools, all of that to build this
community
business
as well.
Yeah. You need the right network, 100%.
Yep.
And that's hard to find that tribe because if you think of it, like we met through a mentorship community, right?
Yep.
And all my partners and some of my closest friends are through all that. So you're essentially finding a tribe that's growing for more in life and growing to be the best version of themselves. And even if I look through my high school and a lot of my college friends, like that wasn't them. They're not in the positions we are today. And so to find that tribe is super valuable. Now, you're right. It does have sort of a bad rap. And it's like, you can take any profession, whether it's a lawyer, a cop, a politician, and there's good and bad people in there. And so I think some of the bad actors in here that really don't help people and they kind of overpromise, underdeliver, and maybe they're embellishing the results they have is what sort of gives things a bad name. Now, how do we kind of vet through that and screen it? I'll give you a 3-step system. And I learned this from my John Maxwell leadership coach. It's 1, do they have the results that I'm looking for? Because if they've been where you're looking to go, they probably know how to do it and they can teach you how to get there. The second thing is, have they been able to replicate those results with someone else? And so there's people that are really good doers, but they're not really good coaches. So can they replicate those results? And then the third one is, do they care for me? Because this is a direct John Maxwell quote, but no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I believe if you can check those 3 boxes, then usually it's a good fit. And I mean, look, I've either worked for or paid for most of the big groups out there in the space. And I mean, it's accelerated my results. It allowed me at the age of 32 to step away from a pretty high paying job and take a year and not work and live off my investments. So
I think that third one that you mentioned is arguably the hardest one to find because there are a lot of successful mentorship programs. And we're not just talking real estate. We're talking about health and fitness, real estate, business. It could be anything. There's so many mentorship programs out there that have the results themselves, maybe have been able to replicate it with students, but they just don't care. And I remember when I first met you, because you were the person I first interacted with in the Jake and Gino community, and I get the same vibes here at Multifamily Wealth Nation. The thing that I can use to describe the program and yourself and just the people in the group is there's a lot of care in the group. There's a lot of love in the group. And I don't say that in like a cheesy, we're all like holding hands and crying together kind of way, but you can genuinely feel that you're not just here to take somebody's money. Of course, you're running a business, you're trying to grow, you have a sales team, you're doing all the things you're supposed to do, but everyone in the community that I've interacted with genuinely cares for the students and wants to see them be successful. That, I think, is the hardest thing to find when it comes to mentorship, because there are a lot of groups out there that have the big, rah-rah, kind of cheer on. You get really hype in the moment, and then they're like, all right, there's a table in the back with we accept Visa, debit, MasterCard, it's like, and I get it. Like, we're all running business. We're all sale. We want to convert, got to convert your leads in a sales dollar. So I respect all that. But at the end of the day, you get into those sometimes, and we've all been in like bad mentorship groups as well. And you're just like, something about this just doesn't feel right. It feels more transactional than it does like, does this person actually care about me?
Yeah, so I really believe in taking that extra mile and showing people who care. And a lot of things we do are just little things. We send birthday cards. We collect people's birthdays and we wish them. So we try to treat people like family. That's the mindset. What would you do for family? We also send out holiday cards. When someone has a baby, we send them a onesie. We try to figure out when people are going to get, if something's happening, they're getting married or went through a surgery, we'll send flowers.
Or they close a deal or something.
Yeah, we celebrate that too. Those wins, that's huge, right? Because we want to really celebrate those that, again, it's culture, right? We're creating a culture where people belong and they feel they found their tribe. And that's what's really important, because it's a lot of it is the knowledge, but it's also the belief you can do it, the belief these people care for you, and really encouraging you throughout the process, because it is hard. That is the truth. It is not easy. And if it was, everyone would do it.
And you and I are both products of mentorship groups and programs. And I will say, every time I go to an event or interact with somebody else that's in a mentorship program, you always leave a little bit more inspired. And I think that's really the power, the education with AI and YouTube and the internet. Like, you could find most of the education. You just got to go find it yourself. But the power comes from the network and community, being surrounded by like-minded people, seeing the results that they're achieving, the people on stage that we had yesterday that were closing deals. That tells you, like, Hannah, 22 years old, right? It's like, if she's 22 years old and she can just get a big 5-figure check from closing a deal, why can't I do it? Right?
Yes.
There's no excuses there. So you get inspired by the people around you and the energy in the room. And also just like the love and the care that you feel when you're there, you start building relationships with people. That's so powerful. You can pay for a mentorship and watch videos and all that, but the relationships you build along the way, I think that's where the true value comes from.
Another thing we're really bullish on is even creating that culture internally for our team members. And so as we have members interact with other people, whether it be coaches or team members, and we want those team members to have the same belief and mindset that we have, because they're ultimately, some of them, interacting with the students more than ourselves. And so you can think about, back to last night, we had an amazing dinner just for the internal team. Like, that's a culture experience, that's bonding, creating buy-in, or even your socks, their MWN socks, right? We really believe in investing in people, because people take care of other people, right? So,
well, you're in the education space, but you're really in the people business.
Yes.
You're here to take care of the students and take care of your employees and the people that are going to help you grow along the way. And usually I've found personally, when you take care of your people, good things tend to happen.
Yes.
You put people first, money second, the money ends up usually kind of finding its way around. So it's been great to have you on the show, Josh. If you wanted to leave the audience with one nugget when it comes to anything business, entrepreneurship, mentorship, what's something you would say over the last few years? Multifamily Wealth Nation now is approaching about 3 years old. What's one big thing you've learned over the last 3 years that you would want to share with the audience? And then tell us, if anyone's interested in learning more about the mentorship program and the community, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'll say this. Look, the journey in entrepreneurship is a hockey stick curve. So slow, and then goes up, up, up.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it is worth it. And I promise, if you can put in a solid, let's call it 3 to 5 years of your life, and really grind it out, sacrifice and discipline, life can look like whatever you want. I don't mean that in a cheesy way. Like, I am a product of that. And I just want you to believe and dream, almost like a child, right? Where you don't have those limiting beliefs, and know that whatever you want to accomplish, you can. I mean, other people have done it. And if they can do it, you can do it as well. So I want to give that inspiring message. Now, as far as if we want to get in contact, would love to connect with you. Our website's multifamilywealthnation.com. I think you can hit the request invitation button there, and then you can connect with our team. Another way, we actually have a free resource if anybody wants to join.
School community.
Yeah, we have a school community. It's an apartment investing community with like 17,000 members in it. So we have the largest multifamily school community. So school is a free education platform. You can download that, and you can type in Multifamily Wealth Nation, and you can join our free school community. And there's education, people in there, live calls.
Well, I appreciate you being on, Josh. It's been great to be connected with you, and I really value our friendship. So looking forward to being a part of the community and seeing where things go over the next few years, and excited to watch your growth. But I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you, my man.
Appreciate you being here with us. Stay connected by joining our weekly newsletter called The Forge, delivered straight to your inbox with thoughts on business, work, family, and becoming a better man. Make sure to check out forgingbettermen.com to sign up. If this show hits home for you, then hit the follow button and leave us a review to help us reach more guys who would benefit from it. This is Under Pressure.